Welcome everyone to our, was this our fourth or fifth iPad meeting? Fifth. That means we're all old hats at this, right? Obviously, with the technology, I think here on the front row keeps getting bigger and bigger with soundboards and everything else. But we do appreciate you coming. This is a users group that we started here at for ITAP for all faculty, staff, and students. And while we kind of get things set up, we really like for you guys to take control of the meeting and make sure we talk about the things you want to talk about, since it's a users group, not a we stand up here and blather about iPads group. So what we're going to do to start off today is we're going to have a demo real quick of an app we like. We talked about this was going to be a presentation theme today. So I think we've all kind of seen Keynote before. We've seen some tethering last meeting. So we're going to, Adam's going to talk about a different app and a different type of presenting with iPads, maybe for a little different instructional value for them. So I'm going to hand it over to Adam, and he can continue on.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay? Yes. Sounds good. All right. So I wanted to kind of take a little bit different direction as far as the presentation app that I wanted to share with everybody today. Last time we spent a lot of time looking for ways to get the iPad screen up onto the big screen, and so other people could see it. It's not the only way or only venue that we can try to display stuff. So I wanted to take some time to go real quickly over an app called Nearpod. And Nearpod is actually a presentation app where you're going to deliver the presentation from your iPad, but it's going to display on student iPads. Or if it was a conference, it'd be your fellow researchers out there. They've got their iPads, and you're really directing the show, and then it allows for some other interactive content. So let me go ahead and fire that up real quick.
And once again, we have everything tethered up here through our Apple TV, so we can do the mirror.
Okay. Now, if I can find the app, that would help even more. Okay, Nearpod. Okay, so the way that Nearpod works is that as an instructor, I'm going to get logged into this one as well. As an instructor, you're going to build your PowerPoint or your Keynote, whatever it is, your standard presentation, and you're going to save it as a PDF. Okay? Once you've got it or saved as a PDF, you can actually save that into your own personal account on Nearpod's website, and then that's really where it allows you to start doing some real interactive content, dropping in quiz questions, embedding videos, enabling polls. So it's really a lot more than just a presentation app. There is a lot of collaboration that you're going to be getting out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull one up real quick. Launch. Yes. Make sure they can see it. Okay, so this might be a little bit harder to see, but so here I've got the actual instructor view, where it's essentially acting as a remote control for my presentation, and then again will allow me to kind of share some details as far as if there's a student submission that I really like, I can go ahead and take that and share that with the rest of the class. But really, you're going through and you're using the iPad to make the presentation. Oh, it's not cooperating with me a lot right now. Share. Okay, so this is what the student would see. And you can go through, as far as this one, you guys can't see this as the student, but it actually allows you to log in. So from here, you could, if you wanted to, you could have them use career accounts or whatever. It doesn't have to be restricted to Purdue since this is not that system. But once the student's actually in, from the instructor side, I can see everybody who's actually logged in to my presentation and is viewing it. So that's kind of nice, especially when we start looking at some of the quiz questions and other options. But, yeah, I guess you could do that if you want to. Okay. But like I said, I mean, it's more than just, like I had said, it's more than just looking at a PowerPoint or anything. Like I said, we've got, and you're not going to hear it right now since we're going through AirPlay, but you can embed videos into your presentation. As long as they're under 3 minutes, then you can put an MP3 or an MP4 onto their website. It automatically will transcode everything and set it up for the iPad. So that's something that's kind of nice. Like I said, trying to get to one of the quiz questions, because we've seen the multimedia content and how that works. Okay, so here was one that I really did kind of like about this idea that we want to use the iPads and the touch interface to be able to have students draw or write out problems and things like that, but it's tough to be able to share that with everybody else. You can actually set up, and so now this is from the student's perspective. So Chris, if you want to draw something and then send a submission. So now Chris, as the student, is actually going through, it doesn't have to be a tracing exercise. This could be a blank whiteboard. It could be a picture that you've got him annotating over the top of. I mean, the sky's pretty much the limit. Once he's submitted, I get to see that on my kind of quasi-roster again from the instructor's view. So if I look at this and say, wow, Chris's stuff really was great, I can choose to select the thumbnail of his work and then go ahead and say, well, I want to share that, and it'll automatically push it out to every student iPad that's actually in the classroom, okay, that's joined in the session. So that's kind of a nice tool that we've got with it. Okay. So again, as far as just going beyond the whiteboards, you do have options for some testing capabilities in here. So if I want to go through and administer a quiz, the student's going to see, all right, now it's time to go ahead and take it. I'm going to click on that. All right, and so it's set up with multiple choice questions. Excuse me. It's just not multiple choice that you can do. If you want to have open-ended responses, you can go ahead and select those so the students could be inputting text. Did you get that one right? Solar glitter? I think that's correct. Yeah, oh, I think it's got to be. Now, another thing that you're going to see from the instructor's view, again, to try to use it as a tool for real-time feedback, is I get a little bar or a little pie chart up here, and on a student-to-student basis, I can see if Chris is getting questions correct or incorrect. So again, it's nice to kind of have that just-in-time information to say, hey, it doesn't look like question 17 is being followed along. I might want to stop and then reiterate the content. So, okay, you good, Chris? All right. You did wonderful. So again, like I said, I wanted just one more question type that I wanted to show was this idea that you can also do free text. So for this particular question, I'm asking, what's he think about mobile technology and the impact on education? And Chris can type in, whatever it is that he wants to. So it's not just limiting yourself to multiple choice or to those whiteboards. And if you're going to have something that's really going to have a lot more verbiage behind it, it's nice to have the keyboard option versus just trying to write something out with your finger. So, so that one, again, is something that's kind of nice. All right. And then just like before, I can go through and say, okay, well, I want to be able to share his response with the rest of the class. And that's going to be there as well, except when it doesn't work. Wonderful. Okay, so those are, like I said, there's more that can go into it. Those are the features that I really wanted to kind of share with everybody. It seems to be pretty robust. I will say as a disclaimer, I would not recommend it for really large classes because the model, it just doesn't work that way. There's actually different members or levels of membership that you can get. So the free version, you're going to be limited to 30 iPads that are participating. So that's really more of going to be a small group. If you want to go a little bit higher and you're willing to pay the money for it, I think the Gold Edition will allow you to get 50 students. There is an option for upwards of 100, but then Nearpod says you've got to get a site license, and that's not something that we have currently at this time. So, okay, that is what I had for you.
Does anyone have any questions for Adam about Nearpod?
I think I'm off the hook.
Hey. Okay. We wanted to make sure that we included at least one presentation application that was a little more interactive. I think sometimes we kind of get stuck in the PowerPoint frame of mind. And so a way to have you to share student work and have them do more than just kind of follow along, I think it's kind of fun. So I guess in the theme of presentation software, does anyone have any presentation software first that they would like to share? Not everyone at once. All right. Does anyone have any different apps or anything they wanted to share? Not about presentations. Does anyone use anything different? That we're using right now? Okay. Right now we're using an Apple TV, which we have hooked over here. So it's this box. And it's this dongle here that connects it to the VGA, HDMI or VGA. We're starting to get some rooms that have HDMI cables in them, but most of them aren't. And essentially, we're using that, and I'm using a private network from my broadcasting with my cellular phone because we can't get it to work over PAL just yet. That's something. Yes. Adam?
Long story short. So, I mean, if you wanted to take your cell phone and use it as a wireless hotspot, there's nothing wrong with that. You're not piggybacking on top of anything else that's part of our networks. If you're,
You have to pay for that service.
a lot of people, yes, probably you're.
I have the TV. I have the Apple
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah. Now the other,
Can we just use a Mac and have it broadcast? Be a hotspot.
with a, you'd have to get like
Create
a.
a network on. Can't we create a network on the Mac that then is picked up by the Apple TV?
Yes, you can.
So we don't need a phone necessarily. We just need something that's
Something to
not
get,
PAL.
yeah.
Something that's not PAL.
Right, something to act as a hotspot. Makes a Wi-Fi network.
Now, one thing, we are working on that. I do know that ITNS Learning Spaces and then my group, all within iPad, we've done some preliminary testing and we've got it now that Apple TV will work in the 3 learning spaces over in the HITS undergrad. So that's just the beginning. We're working towards a solution that will be more robust and will actually be able to roll out across campus. I wouldn't say with confidence that that's going to happen until at least the summer. That would be very optimistic to say that we would have it working then, but that is something that we're
So
pursuing.
part of it's still the Apple TV.
Yeah, that's still.
Okay, that's good.
iTunes 6, or not iTunes, iOS 6 can mirror anything through the Apple TV. And then the new Mountain Lion, of course, on Mac. From your phone, from an iPad, is mirroring is built in once you have the Apple TV hooked up to a network.
6.0 or 6.1
Yes.
or 6.01.
Yes. Yeah. If you double click the home button and go over to where like the screen lock and volume is, if you're on the same network as an Apple TV, you'll have a little icon that'll appear for screen sharing. Yes, they have to be on the same network. Anyone else have any questions or any apps they wanted to share? Yes.
I find that, I think this has been talked about before at one of the previous meetings of this group, it's Prezi, presentation software that allows you to do presentations through PC, online. You can also access them through tablet, like an iPad or an Android-based tablet to do presentation. Now with the latest upgrades of the Prezi software for the iPad, I don't know about the Android tablets, but you can actually create and edit your Prezis on your iPad.
Oh, you can create them now on the iPad. Well, that's nice. I know before I could only play it, but considering that was all Flash-based, and we know the iPad and Flash.
Yeah, the latest update of the Prezi client for the iPad allows you to create and edit.
Okay.
Prezi.
And Prezi's, it's kind of a non-linear presentation software where you have things, you kind of arrange things, think about on a big whiteboard, and you have essentially zoom around the whiteboard. And you can embed video and stuff like that. It doesn't quite have the robustness of like PowerPoint in terms of like being able to minusculely change each font that you want and stuff like that, but it can do some pretty neat stuff. All right, does anyone else have any apps they want to talk about? Yes, sir.
Just to use one, I talked to my IT guy, and we were talking about how, is there a way to print wirelessly to print it in the department off the iPad?
But it's not something you have on your iPad that you want to print. It's just you can use that to print something that you need.
Print something, yeah, you can
Okay.
put it in Dropbox.
Okay.
So do you have to open up your machine or to one thing? In other words, you have to be able to see your desktop.
Yes.
And you open it up just to you, or does it open up to everybody?
It can be password protected, right?
Yeah, it's always something to think about when we're opening up these ports to the to the internet.
You
But
can, remote desktop will allow you also to sign off on your desktop, log off your desktop in the office so that you're locking it back up.
yeah, yes, in the back.
Further about the printing, there's actually a hardware solution. I don't know if iPad is exploring this. Something called Lantronix X-Print Server.
Okay, so you said there's a hardware. I'm kind of repeating for the online people. There's a hardware solution, Lantronix
X-Print Server.
X-Print server.
The enterprise version supports unlimited network printers. And the home version supports two network printers, both support up to 8 USB prints. So I was curious if has that or you have heard of using that.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know about that particular hardware device, but I do know that the support folks at iTab are looking into printing solutions for iPads and tablet devices because they know that it's becoming more and more popular in the classrooms. So that is something that I don't, I have no idea when it would be implemented. Don't know if they've even found a viable solution yet, but I know that is something that's being actively looked at by the iPad folks to support printing from portable devices.
Definitely, I mean, with our trend of moving kind of away from computer labs and having personal devices, I mean, that's obviously something that someone's looking at. I mean, we are not specifically here at the iPad group, but we can definitely make sure that we're bringing it up. It's one of the things, oh yeah, that is something we have to worry about. Okay, can people print from their iPad? Oh yeah. So thank you for sharing. Does anyone else have anything they would like to share?
Actually, I share a problem.
Okay.
I have an account with Boiler Backpack,
Uh-huh.
and I was able to configure it such that using file browser, it's an application, using file browser, I can have access to the Boiler Backpack, but only on campus, not away, not off campus. And then even on campus, like right now, I tap in, get into the file itself, the Boiler Backpack, with all my files there, but it looks like it times out after a few minutes. It just loses the connection.
I figured out the solution to that. Cisco Internet is a free app. It's dead simple to set up with basically, there's a way to do it natively in the settings menu. But if you get the Cisco Internet app, it's a matter of putting in the address webvpn.prezi.edu, putting in your credentials, and bam, you connect it.
You like that?
Yep, and it works on iPhone. It works on the phone, it works on, it's called Cisco Internet, it's one word.
I tried that also with my Mac. It just doesn't connect. I'm not able to get it in the Mac. So I went to iTab, they did it on my Mac, and it worked for a very short time. Once again, the internet, what happens is my computer just cycles. What's the cycle for?
Oh, this one has,
That's a minute and it doesn't work. Every minute. Apparently, we're doing the same with the iPad people and they found it works very well. I don't know how they did it. Then once I got it, then it worked off-campus. The off-campus is required to be set at 8 p.m. That's right, yeah, that's what I was saying. The others go fine, but then the information goes away.
That's something with the setting on your Mac, because I set up the Cisco VPN and it stays on for hours. Basically, as long as I leave the computer, I'm not even sure if it even goes away to let the computer sleep.
Same with the iPad.
So there's some other conflict, there's some other conflict that's going on in your system. It's causing an issue. And it could literally be the machine without it, that's getting.
So the same thing happens in the iPad with the VPN. They'll open freely after it's done. And just as any kind of remote location for those the same with home or coffee house at home. You might try at some other location. I think that problem with routers would not, they are good point. You have not maintained the connection.
Because the common element for the two systems is the router. You've got two different devices on the same router, so if you go to Starbucks, you can do it there. You know it's a router. Right?
And I think that's one thing we've kind of been testing. We're still working on is the iPad and boiler backpack connections. I mean, I don't even know how widespread those accounts are yet. Lakeisha? Boiler backpack, is that still being rolled out? Are they still working on that? Or?
I believe there are 1,000 accounts.
We don't know what it is.
It's all optional. It's all optional. You have to opt in.
Okay.
Boiler backpack is available now for the SMB or SIF style access to get to we go to the map network drive. What they're working on now is the next step is a distributed cloud-based solution similar to but not as good as Dropbox.
Okay.
That will allow you to share files through Boiler backpack on multiple devices.
We're still testing it right now. I believe we're waiting on the iPad app to be, the updated iPad app to be
Right, that's
released.
out now, in fact.
Well, no, the updated iPad app hasn't been released yet from a couple of weeks ago that we're just waiting to test. The version after the end of 0.7 is out as a 0.8 version that we're waiting to come out. It wasn't available as of this morning.
But that's on the App Store, iTunes Store.
Is there an official, what is the company that does boiler backpack? Is it,
Oxygen.
so that's an app that you can use with?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not a boiler backpack app. Okay.
Well, that's good. Cloud browser allows you that as an SMB device. Okay. It's Oxygen, yeah, it's more like Dropbox.
All right. Yes.
So are you at the question stage yet, or are you still at the?
Sure. We're doing questions. That's fine.
Because I want to know what the conventional wisdom is for presentation systems that allow you to have speaker links. So that, I can have a cheat sheet that's got things I don't want to forget to say, but I don't want to put them on the screen for students to see.
Right.
I mean, PowerPoint does that in its sort of way, but first of all, that doesn't work right if you're using like a typical pick site where you have only one device, so you can do it with Mac or laptop plugged in, you can sort of use it, but it's a little bit funky. And then now we're talking about using iPad. I think it's a great idea. So I like the idea of being able to wander around through the class and direct my PowerPoint presentation or my keynote presentation. But I also like to have feel more comfortable if I have a set of secret notes that I can share with them.
The only way I personally have done that has been with a Tether iPad. So having the iPad on the counter hooked into the VGA, and then using an iPhone running Keynote as well, and that will display your author's notes. So then you can advance your slides and also have your author's notes on your iPhone. That's the only way I personally use author notes with iPads. Does anyone else have any other bits of wisdom?
I would have to go back and look at it to make sure that I'm thinking of the right app, but I believe it's SlideShark. If you upload a PowerPoint presentation to a SlideShark account, but I believe that when you're going through the presentation, that from your perspective, you can see the notes, but I don't believe that they'll actually display.
But if you use that on the tablet.
That one, I want to say that you can, but it's more that it would be mirroring. Because SlideShark was actually set up that you're giving a presentation, well, no, if you were going through VGA, then you would be, yeah, it's not going to work for this. You would still have to be covered. It would still be with the VGA.
We're moving there. we're trying to get there. Does anyone else have any other suggestions for author's notes? Oh, that's one we're working on, right? Yes.
A question, but it's not about but it's about Microsoft's Surface Pro.
Uh-huh.
Does anyone here know much about that in terms of I would love to use it in CAD in class, but the building quite help us. I'm wondering if the Surface Pro is going to have a real pen on it or is it going to be the same?
Well, I guess this is we'll transition. We're going to transition into different types of hardware. We've kind of been focusing on, we've been focusing on iPads a lot. One thing I was going to talk about some of the new tablets, including the Surface Pro. But before we talk about that, we had a volunteer who wanted to talk about getting Note 10.1. Is that what you said? Talk about experience with the Note 10.1, and then after that has finished, and we'll also talk about the Surface and some other tablets. All right. All right. What do you wish to use? Okay.
A while back, we were trying to. We were finding the math department starting to get into remote teaching, where the students out there, out a ways from Purdue, do their homework, put it into a PDF file, send it into Blackboard. Then we would have graders that will take that, download that information from Blackboard, grade it, put it back up for the students. So we were looking for something that right now we're using these, I think they're Lenovo laptops. So we wanted something a little bit different. So we looked at the iPad. The iPad was good except for two things. One, the file system. The iOS is just not very easy to get around, get into. And the other one was the stylus. There was a good stylus, I think, that y'all recommended last time. And it works for good general, but still wasn't quite what I think the students would want to use. So looked around and we saw this new Samsung Notebook 2. It comes with it actually has a stylus. It just fits right in here. And they have and so they do have software built for this, for the what they call the S Pen. So one of them that I haven't really gone much into the Samsung, but one of them was just this. Let me pull the stylus out. Just kind of showing you. So here's a little software that comes with it. And what makes this great, I mean, this is probably as good as writing on paper, at least I found. So here was an example. But what you can do is you could, once you download it, you can put it on here. Then you can take your, it becomes it's a PDF file when you download it, but S-Note will see it, and it will bring it up and allow you to then annotate it, do what you want to with it. So I cleared this out a while ago, and I don't have a PDF file to show you, but this would be the same thing. So, and like I said, just the writing, let's see, where I have to go back. So here you can set different types of pens, different colors, and once you get through, the The other one, it has some other pretty cool features in it, but one of them is that you can write, and it will handwrite to text. And if your handwriting's good, it'll figure this out. Let's see if it'll do that. So, doing text, another one here was this formula. So if you teach math, which bx equals 3. I think if you go out here, so it figures that out. Then if you hit search, it goes out on the network out to a Mathematica Alpha, I think. It'll figure this out, and it'll bring it up. It'll graph everything for you. Pretty amazing. I don't, but ours was more for this, just the stylus. And so I downloaded I put a PDF file on the file locker, as that would emulate what the Blackboard would be. Downloaded that and got it in, played with it, marked it up. Then I was able to, when I saved it, I was able to go into the file system, find it, upload that back up to file locker, and that's exactly what our students would be doing. So anyway, the stylus is great. It's probably so far the best one I've found, or I haven't looked at that many, but much better than writing on the iPad. Now, I used the iPad and I used the stylus, and for just general work, it was fine. But I just didn't think our students or graders would want to, faculty members would think that would go for them. So anyway, I looked at this. We're going to try this out and see how well this goes.
Does that stylus work on the iPad?
No. The iPad has a different. I forgot exactly, but there's how it works.
Tip.
Yeah, it works with a rubber tip, and if you get too small, the one you use? Yeah, and that has a fine enough tip, and that will work. But again, sometimes the lag when you're writing, the lag can be a little bit slow. And I was thinking, like, if I was writing real quick, it wouldn't pick up the handwriting. This I haven't been able to. So anyway, I just wanted to show that to you. If this is a different alternative to the iPad, I use the iPad. I like it, but it just doesn't. What's this? It's called the Samsung Galaxy
Is that Note?
Note 2 10.1. Samsung Galaxy Note 10.1.
Okay, no.
And actually, they're coming out with a Note 2 phone here pretty soon. It's going to be 5 inches. It'll
Yeah,
be really big.
it's called a phablet. It's about like that.
So, but it'll use the same pen. You'll be able to do the same thing. So.
Yes.
So is that handwriting recognition native to Android, or are you using the app?
Well, it's the app. Let me get back here. It's this what they call, I think it's Notes. I think that's the name of the app. But that app is part of what comes with the Samsung.
It's a built-in in Samsung their TouchWiz for Note products. So yeah.
I haven't tried using like a third-party PDF software where I could annotate it. So I don't know how well. They say it works okay, but this particular software has been tuned to to work with the S Pen, and there's several places. I think Chapman went out and found there are some websites out there that have software that Samsung's trying to get people to say, hey, write software for our S Pen. And
Yeah, Samsung created a whole API for applications to work with this pen interface. And at the time they did that, they started an app challenge. And you can go to the website for that challenge now and see like the 3 apps that won and the other 45 that were submitted. And all specifically use that interface to work with their pen.
so this is an alternative that it's you might find. Like I said, if you're looking for writing, this probably might be a good alternative.
All right. Anyone else have any questions?
Okay,
Thank you. I think Samsung's definitely been hitting the market with some interesting things in their competition with Apple, with phones and tablets, so the Note, etc. So we're talking about different tablets, I guess. Now we kind of get Apple focused a lot, I think, in this group, because as I look around, most of you have Apples. Right, it's kind of the predominant thing. So we talk about Apples. Of course, they don't have a lot new out. They have the new iPad 4. I don't know if anyone has the iPad 4, the twice as fast one. This is an iPad mini that I have here, and you can see how huge this is. I haven't really used this too much in a class context, although I'll say I've done a little bit of AirPlay with it, and this doesn't quite have the internals of the 3 or the 4. I mean, the screen's not as nice, but in terms of the power, it's about the same as an iPad 2, so when I do AirPlay, I get just a little bit of stutter sometimes, so when I push to a screen. So that's just something to keep in mind. But then the other things coming up, we have, Android. So speaking of Android, we have Google pushing their own tablets, the Nexus line of tablets. They have the Nexus 7, which is competing with, this is what this was created to compete with, the Nexus 7 and the Nexus 10.1, both of which are priced aggressively against the Apple ecosystem. So a Nexus iPad mini, standard 16 gig one costs about, $329. A Nexus 7 7-inch costs $199 for a 16 gig, $249 for a 32 gig. And then their Nexus 10.1, I believe, 16 gig starts out at about $399. So it undercuts Apple a little bit. I'll tell you what, I was contemplating getting a Nexus 7, having an iPad, and I couldn't do it because I already have all these apps purchased in the Apple ecosystem. So, but it's something to keep in mind. I actually did some research on Android apps for education because I was curious about it. And I didn't see as many as you'd think. You would think if these are priced so aggressively, if I could buy 3 of these for the price, or 4 of these for the price of 2 iPads, it might be worth, that might be something education or educators might be interested in. I don't know that they've hit the prevalence of iPads yet, that they have really developed Android education apps. From what I've looked at, it looks a little sparse. I mean, if you need to read a book or something on it, read PDFs, yeah, you can do that. But there's obviously not a Keynote, there's not a PowerPoint or anything like that on Android. So, it's interesting hardware and some good specs, but I haven't seen as much educational use in it so far. But the other one, so we have the new player, right, which has been brought up, Windows, the Windows tablet. Did anyone play with the Windows tablet over in Stewart Center when they had it a couple weeks ago? Yeah. What do you think?
Basically, we put a pretty face on Windows 7, and stupidly, the only Windows apps that work on there's two Windows Surface tablets. The one is the RT, which runs an ARM-based processor, which is what tablets run on, or power. The one that's not out yet is the Pro, and that runs on Intel hardware. The battery is going to be horrible in those. The battery of the RT, I think, is pretty good, but the Pro tablet, the battery is going to be pointless. And the only apps that run on the RT tablet, Windows apps, I should say, that we're all used to, the Microsoft Office. We didn't bother to create a version of Office that is basically trying to be quick on an Excel spreadsheet on the screen is big, which we basically just scaled it down and didn't bother
I had a discussion with, I don't know if they were student reps or who they were over there doing that. And I had the Surface. I was like, hey, I'm part of this iPad and tablets users group. I was kind of fishing to see if they would come in and show the Surface. Yeah. I was talking with them. I said, so hey, lots of faculty and staff use these. Is there any way to project this on the screen? I don't know. Okay. What kind of accessories are there for this? I don't know. All right, good talking. So we have the two versions here. The Surface RT, which is available in I think 32 and 64 gig flavors, and like I said, it doesn't run Windows 8. It runs Windows RT, which is a stripped down version of Windows 8 that exists and it has a little bit of Windows 8 to run the Office products. But other than that, it doesn't. It just runs Windows, Windows RT, and it has apps you can run from the Windows App Store, which I think compared to Apple, something like 10 million apps versus 10,000 apps. So I mean, I'm sure they're working on it, but so that's the limitation. The other thing I read is kind of interesting. You know, and you've seen all the commercials with the Snap-on keyboard, right? I mean, okay, that was kind of cool. There's a cover that costs $100 or $120 if you want one that has physical keys on it that you can type on and has a little mouse pad. I felt kind of weird using a mouse pad with a tablet, but you know, we'll go around that. Anyway, one thing I thought was interesting reading about the Surface, people really, I mean, they kind of liked it. I mean, you can have actual PowerPoint on your tablet, which, you know, kind of sounds like a selling point. That's free with the Surface RT. It comes with, I don't think it's a final version of Office 2013, but it's a close to final version of Office 2014. The other thing to keep in mind is, I think it's $4.99 for a 32 gig, $5.99 for a 32 with a cover, I think is what it is. But here's the other thing, it's Windows. So their operating system takes about 16 gig of that. So the 32 gig is really a 16 gig. The 64 gig is really a smaller. So, but you can see that there's still some work. I was talking with the rep, and I was like, yeah, I tend not to buy the first generation of Microsoft products.
Another point of failure in my opinion is the keyboard actually has a touchpad on it, and in my mind, as soon as you make the user use a touchpad, like a scrolling touchpad, you failed at creating a tablet. You know, there should be no reason that we should ever have to use a separate touchpad, but that's basically the only way really to realistically navigate the Office application using that. So, in other words, if you don't have, the keyboard is pretty much a necessity for the Windows tablet. And the other goofy thing that I really noticed was when you put it in portrait mode, it's almost impossible to read everything because it basically, the way it renders, it's in like a 16:9 format, and so there's no retina display on it, so the text is really green. I have pretty good eyes, and I thought it was just relatively discreet. So, I mean, like you said, you're talking about $600 basically to start it, and you can get an iPad for $400 or $500, and you know, spend $30 on Keynote and pages and numbers, and basically you have Microsoft Office.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, and that's the thing now. I think people were buying, I mean, they only are selling it right now in the Microsoft store and on the online store. I believe those are the only two places. Did you know there are Microsoft stores, like Apple stores? Evidently there are.
Kiosks.
Are there kiosks?
Yeah, just down the aisle from the Apple Store in Indianapolis.
Okay. Well, so that's the Surface. That's the Surface. Now the Surface Pro is coming out. It was supposed to be this month now. I think it's back in January. And the difference between that is it's running a real Intel chip, so an Intel hybrid, whatever it is, a Mac or a PC, and it's going to run a full version of Windows 8. So, what was it? I think there was like an $800 one, but again, they have like no memory on it at all after the operating system, and then there's a $1,000 one that has 120 gig, so 100 gig after the OS.
Just make a Windows Fresh Air, piece of Mac Air.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the Microsoft
That's pretty much where it's at.
Well, I mean, I don't even think the Pro comes with Office. I think only the RT does. I only the Pro does. But we really, I haven't read any reviews or I haven't really seen anything about it because it hasn't been released. But I think, so it's supposed to be a little heavier. It was probably the battery life probably chip is running more advanced chip. It's going to be more cooling and all that. So we'll see. I mean, it's one of those things, if they can get this figured out, we can have all this Windows stuff that we can present, so whatever, that'd be nice, but we'll have to see if Windows 8 survives that long. They've already said, I saw that they put on their website, the Surface is going to be supported for 4 years. They've already announced what their date is that they will support this. But basically start to go, oh, really? So,
You know anything about the screen technology? Is it basically touch screen like the iPad or is it touch and regular pen?
to be honest, I'm not sure.
It's touch only.
Is it touch only?
Yeah.
So the pen is just like it.
Yeah, yes, that's the touch.
So, you know, I think generation 2 or 3 at the Surface might be worth looking at, but at this point, it's a little pricey and people like to be very limited. Oh, by the way, I did do research. You can connect it to a VGA projector. You can get, I think it has mini HDMI out on the Surface. You can get a mini HDMI to VGA kind of like thing after Apple TV, and that will only cost you $50. Maybe 40. I'm sorry, I'm going to get this out. $40. So it's
To be fair, Apple's accessories are.
well, no, to be fair, this one costs 60 for the Apple TV. So I mean, I'm sorry, I should not be too much happy about it. Does anyone else have any comments or questions for us today?
Is that right now? If we connect, I apologize, this is probably the end of all questions in this group, but can we connect this to electron projectors?
If you buy a dongle.
Okay. And that's-
There's a 30 pin to VGA dongle.
Okay, that's.
Now, of course, you know that the new iPad and of course the iPad minis, they changed the connector.
Yeah.
So this is a nice small connector that will now cost you $40 to buy a new dongle to make it work.
Or you can buy the $30 adapter to go from the 30 pin to.
You can buy the $30 adapter that maybe will work, or you can buy the $30 cable that is in it. Now, what Adam was worried about was if we had AV cards with the new adapter make it so we couldn't plug in new ones that fit into the AV card. I don't think we ever got an answer on that.
Is it the same connector as iPhone 5?
Yeah, so this is the iPhone 5, iPad 4, iPad mini connector. It is nice in the sense that, you know, it doesn't matter which way you put it in, it's reversible and all that kind of stuff, but woo! I know. See, I have 2 speakers here. Look at that stereo. This thing's a different size blaring out of that thing. So, all right. Any other questions? All right, I appreciate everyone coming and staying with us this afternoon. We will be updating the wiki. Feel free to update the wiki if you wish. And the email list address, have the address for the tiny URL for the wiki. I have my iPad up here. If you want to come up and play with the small lightning tool, it's fun to take your big heavy like that. But otherwise, we'll probably have another meeting sometime in February. I'll make sure to let you guys know when that is. Have a great finals week and a great happy holidays.
Thank you.